nested loops, that is a loop within another loop. One situation that this can be well illustrated is by drawing on the screen. So say for example I have I want to draw a frame, okay? A frame of asterisks or stars. Just draw a frame of any size. So for example, a frame of size 3 will be a 3 by 3 square where this is the frame, right? Then a size 5, for example, might be this. If you notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars across and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars down. In the size 3, there's 3 by 3, right? Now, the key to drawing these things is to notice patterns and to understand nested loops. So we're going to start by understanding nested loops. Let's go create a new Java file. We're going to call this file, this program is going to be public class, and our program is going to be frame, okay? Public class frame. I will do my public static void main string args. So this should come, these two lines should come pretty quickly when you're starting to program in Java. Okay. Now, let's start with the following. Let's start with just all stars, not a frame like this, for example. Okay, not a frame like this, but instead, if it's a 5 by 5, let's try to do the following. Let's try to do a frame like this. Whoops. Let's try to do a frame like this, like all full of stars. Of course, I can do system out print lines of some sort, but if I want the user to enter n, then I will have a problem because I cannot just do system outs. I need something that will tell my program to grow across and grow down as much as the user wants, as much as n. So for example, let's say we have n as a variable of size, I don't know, let's set it to 5. This can be set by the user, also using a scanner, but let's just assume it's 5. I'm going to try the following loop. I'm going to go for int down equals 1, down is less than n, and I'm going to do down plus plus. This is what's going to increase my printing the stars that go down, okay? And now I'm going to do a for loop, int across. It's going to go from 1, I'm going to go from 0 actually. Down from 0 to n, to less than n, that means going from 1 to n. So from 0 to 9, for example, from 0 to less than 10 is all the numbers from 0 to 9. That is an effective count of 10 numbers. Okay? So if I start at 0 and I go all the way to 1 minus n, because it's strictly less than n, it's the same thing as going from 1 to n. Okay, but for many reasons that will become clear in later units, it's useful if you think of things going from 0 to 1 less than n, as opposed to 1 to exactly n. Okay, so we have the for loop that's going to draw the lines down. Let's do a for loop that's going to draw stars across. So across start there. Across is less than n because it's an n by n, and then across plus plus. Now, if I do this, system.out.print star, this statement goes with this for loop. That means I'm going to start printing stars n times, right? Because across goes from 0 to less than n. That means I'm going to execute this statement n times. Okay, so I'm going to print it to the side n times. Now, I'll print it to the side n times, and down will be 0. then down will be 1. I'll print it across again n times, and so on and so forth. Now, let's look at what this does. I'm going to save it first. Save, compile. I hope there are no typos. And there are no typos. Across has 2 C's here, and across has 2 C's here. Oh, but this is misspelled, so it's actually one C. There you go. So let's run it, and you'll see something really, a very long line, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. That was the first time it looped through this one. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars again the second time it looped through this one, and you can count the stars and you will see that if this goes to n, and n is 5, right? So if this goes to 5 and this goes to 5, there should be 5 times 5, 25 stars. The trick now here is that after this loop of going 5 across, I need to print a new line. So I'm going to do system.out.println, print line. Remember, this goes with this for loop, and this goes with the outer for loop. So every time you increase the variable across to print stars to the side, you'll just print stars to the side. Once you reach n, this loop here ends and yields to this loop here. So down is incremented. So if down is incremented, I'm also going to print a new line. So let's compile this and run. Now, as you can see, we have our 5x5 grid all full of stars. And here's the interesting thing, right? So I don't want to print all of the stars. I want to leave the middle blank. Now let's think of this as rows here, 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 and columns. So this is the first column, here's the second column, here's the third column, fourth and fifth column, or whatever, nth column. What I'm going to do is, if the row is the first one, so instead of calling them down and across, I'm now going to call them row, 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 and column. Column, column. Think of an Excel spreadsheet, right, with rows and columns. Now, for basically each column here, I'm going to print a star, right? But here's the thing. I'm only going to print the star if I am on the first row and the last row. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm only going to print the star then, right? So if, and I'm going to create a little bit of an open braces here. If my row is 0, that's the first row, right? Or the row is the last one, so n minus 1, right? That's the last row. Remember, I'm starting from 0, so I don't go to n, I go to n minus 1. So if the row is 0 or the row is the last one, then I'm going to print the star. Let's see what that does. Go. This prints the first line and the last line, but now we're missing the individual asterisks at the first column and the last column. So if the row else, what happens here? Here the column is 0 and the column is here the column would be n minus 1. So if the column is 0, okay, or the column is n minus 1, right, then I will system.out.println, then I will print an asterisk. Okay. Now, if the column is not 0, not n-1, and the row is not the first one or the last one, I'm just going to print, so basically the middle, I'm just going to print system.out.println simple space. Okay? And I think we have our frame. Let's take a look. Ooh, it's not print line, it's print. Sorry about that. Print. And there's our frame, n by n. If n is 7, everything should work because this whole set of loops here are conditioned in n, not on a specific number. Right, so now here's a bigger frame, right? A bigger frame. Now this, of course, can be combined into just one if, right? So look at this code, try it out. Once you've done this, you can optimize this quite a bit. So you can say, for example, if row equals 0 or row equals n-1, and you can basically grab this condition here, say, or column equals 0 or column equals n-1, print the star. Else, just print a space, right? Because the star will be printed if you're in the first row, in the last row, or if you're in the first column or the last column. Everything else is going to have a space. And this is a shorter way of printing your, of doing the exact same thing. And we have here a frame of 7 by 7. Okay? You can put 20 if you will. And again, n can be something that you read from the user input. And that's a very big frame that we end up with.